Monday. Sure is Monday. Well, I think I'm going to talk about my lazy Mondays. I've got all of these sitting here waiting for a rewick. Say that 3 times fast. Rewick, rewick, rewick. Anyways, how often do you guys rewick? I don't do it often enough. It's kind of like the mechanic, you know, Red Seal mechanic. Not that I consider myself a Red Seal rewicker, but it's kind of like the Red Seal mechanic that never does his own oil changes, never changes his own brakes. He's got an old beat up car. I know they're not all like that, but it just seems to be the way. So I thought what I would do is take this opportunity to go through a bunch of different RDAs and rewick them, and I've got a couple to build and stuff. I don't know how long this video is going to be and if you guys are actually going to be interested in it, but I'm still trying, man. This is a new thing for me, so let's do this. Where should I start? I guess it doesn't matter. I'll start with one of my favorites, the Goon. When you guys are rewicking, if you're using a mechanical mod, it's a really good idea to take your batteries out, get them charged up, make sure they're all cleaned up, clean up your tube at the same time, and do all of your building on something that's regulated. I use my DNA 200 because it'll fire just about anything reliably. And I can also turn down the wattage so that I don't burn out my coils right away. I've had a few people come in, get a new set of coils, and I'll give them a pretty good understanding of how to rewick. And they'll go home and they'll be ready for a rewick. And they'll leave their mod sitting at, 80, 90, 100 watts plus. And a couple of pulses, they've got a hot spot in there and it just melts their coils, just melts them right away, they're gone. And then they come in and they're wondering why. So the first thing I always do when I'm gonna rewick is, go onto my my DNA 200 or some sort of regulated mod. Any sort of regulated mod will do. It'll be a lot safer than trying to rewick on a tube mod. Just in case there's any shorts, if your coils are touching the top cap or something happened, it's just a really good idea. Even when you go to pull out your cotton, you can pull these coils sideways and it'll touch the posts, and then if you're rewicking on a tube, that's where you get yourself into some trouble. It's been a really long time since I rewicked this. On the positive side, I think I got been using this one exclusively with the girl next door I don't know. I opened this last week. Kind of jump around on different flavors and stuff, but I may have. I opened this up last week when I melted the bottle sitting next to the fire outside. So that's quite a bit of juice to run through one single RDA without having to rewick it. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of lazy and I'll kind of suffer through a slightly off-tasting RDA so that I don't have to do it for myself. I mean, people come through the door here all the time and ask, "Hey, can you rewick?" And I'm quick to jump at it because I like to help other people, but I like to help myself as well. So next thing, after you've carefully pulled your wicks out without messing up your coils or anything, turn it down. Turn it down to something that's easy to maintain. So even if you pulse it at, say, 30 or 40 watts, it may take a little bit more time, but a lot of you take a lot of time to build coils and or have someone else build coils for you, and they might cost you a few bucks, or just cost you a bunch of time. So turn it down to, say something like 30, 40, 50 watts if you're getting brave, and just slowly pulse your mod, just for a second or two at a time. Depending on the resistance of your build, it may take a little bit more of a pulse, a longer pulse, but the one thing that you don't want to do is just hammer that fire button and get those things glowing red hot right away, because it's going to hurt your coils, or it could anyways. So take your time, pulse them slowly if you have to. I mean, they don't look great, but they're definitely not horrible. I've seen a heck of a lot worse. Might even want to go outside so that you don't stink up the house. Wife, brother, sister, whoever's at home is gonna say that's gross in some cases. This one's not terrible. Now there's some speculation and some debate online with different people, even people that come into the shop that just don't agree with using water to douse their coils in. When it comes to metallurgy and stuff like that, it, for lack of better terms, Monday and not enough coffee, it tightens up the steel. It aligns the Monday. It aligns the steel. It makes it tighter and stuff. So some people say that's a bad thing. I don't find it to be a super bad thing. I do it to every single set of my coils, and as a matter of fact, my water's pretty gross. I'm gonna go change it. Give me a sec. The correct words are quench. Quench your coils in water, just like you would quench a knife that you were building or something, just to tighten up that steel. And of course it makes it a little bit brittle, and that's, I think, the argument that most people are having with coils. But they're already fragile. They're already a little bit brittle. Because I build most of my coils, or all of my coils, with stainless steel, they're a little bit more rigid to begin with. They're less fragile when you quench them. Something like Canthal or Nichrome, you're taking your chances, and I think that's where the crossover between people that quench their coils and people that don't quench their coils come into play. So I'm just pulsing my coils nice and slowly. We're only at 30 watts. And slowly you can start increasing the amount of time that you hold your finger on the fire button. Cleaned up my water. It looks a lot nicer. When they start to glow red, all that carbon buildup on there, I don't know how well you'll be able to see that, but all that carbon buildup starts to drip onto the desk. All that carbon buildup starts to kind of turn to ash. And once you've got your coils fairly hot, carefully without dropping your mod into the water, quench them real quick. And what I see in the top of the water is just all of that carbon, all of that buildup and stuff just kind of shoots away from the coils, and they get a little bit cleaner. Do that 2 or 3 times. And the other thing that a guy can do, or a girl can do, is do that 2 or 3 times. And if you really want to get picky and really take care of your coils really well, take an old toothbrush and a little bit of dish soap when your coils are cool, because you don't want to be burning soap, and give them a gentle little scrub, and make sure you rinse them really well. I rewicked for a guy last week, or I guess it was a fresh build, and I was kind of doing some colored coils and stuff, because it kind of when you're doing fresh coils. You just do up your wrap, you install your coils, then you take it to the sink and use some dish soap and a toothbrush and scrub it all up and rinse it off really well. And then you can get some really fancy, pretty blue and purple and gold colors and stuff. Not in that particular order, the reverse order actually. But I didn't rinse my coils well enough, and I felt like a tool. I kind of did a quickie, rinsed them a little bit, wicked it all up, put it all together, and great vapor production, nice colors, all that good stuff. But it tastes like soap. So make sure you rinse really well, or all that hard work is going to go to waste, and you're going to have to do it again, like I did. So, warm these up a couple of times. Starting to come out really nice. I'm actually getting really lucky. I don't really have to mess around with these coils at all. But if you pay attention to the coils and have a good close look at it, if you see any sort of like super heated hot spots, you can just take a pair of tweezers or even a pair of pliers, as long as you're not touching the coils or the fire button at the same time as you're touching the coils. You can kind of manipulate them and just kind of wiggle them around a little bit, pinch them, play with them. Get inside with a screwdriver or one of these mandrels and kind of just gentle little wiggles like this will take care of any little hot spot. And if you take your time, they should last you, depending on the type of juice that you're using, 3, 4, 5 days. If it's something that's really sweet, you may find that you have to rewick every day, but that's the price we pay for really sweet juice. I've been vaping this eggnog for a couple of days, and probably 2 days is the max. It's a little bit sweeter than my typical juice. Most of my e-liquid that I use, I can get 3 or 4 days, and like I say, I'm lazy, so I like that. But anywho, or warm these up one more time. Make sure that, and I'm increasing my pulse time now too, now that everything's looking good and the coils are ramping up evenly across. They both look the same. They're both warming from the inside out. I'm significantly increasing my pulse time, and I'm still at 30 watts, so it takes a little bit of time to actually get there. And I could probably hold this until it times out, because it's only 30 watts and I'm at a 0.13, so it's not a whole lot of voltage going through it. Quench them one more time, just have a look at the water and see how it looks, and not a whole lot of stuff is flashing off of there. You can take more time and clean it all up really, really well, but I'm kind of just gonna do this to each one of my atomizers. I'm gonna clean up my top caps and everything afterwards, but for now this is done, and we'll move on to the next one. Do the twisted messes next. The more time and care you take with rebuilding your coils or cleaning up your atomizers, making sure that everything's good and clean, there's no dirt left over, no old juice, even taking out the bottom pin, the 510 pin on the bottom here, carefully without losing any of the parts or whatever. There's insulators in there and stuff like that, but taking those out once in a while and kind of giving them a scrub and cleaning in that little void can reduce like a crossover if you're going from one juice to another, or a couple of different flavors or whatever. Less likely that you're going to have some of that e-liquid come up and rear its ugly head. Especially if it's over steeped and all that good stuff. So whatever, you guys are getting the point, I'm sure. But again, on this one, just gently taking care of your coils. You gotta pull them back and forth a little bit just to make sure that it's not pulling your coils all out of alignment. Or if you If you use a lot of cotton, you might just open it up, slide it out just a little bit, use a pair of scissors, cut one end off, and then it slips out nice and easy. These coils are kind of cool, even though they're getting a little dingy and scummy. They need to be rewicked. The cotton was definitely done. They're still kind of shiny. I just took I think I did 22 gauge stainless steel, and I ran them through a pasta roller just a couple times, just so that they were nice and consistent. And then I put like 25 or 30 wraps onto a drill bit, the same size that I wanted to wrap. I think it was like a 3 mil diameter. I think I even put it on this mandrel, and then put that into the drill and used some sandpaper. Started at like, I think it was a 650 grit sandpaper. Did that for a little bit. Went to 1,000 grit, and then went to 2,000 grit, and it kind of, it's called a mirrored coil, and I never really held much hope for stuff like that. I thought maybe it was a bit of a waste of time, but judging by how well these coils held up and how pretty they are, and well, flattening your coils is going to give you more surface area and give you a little bit more flavor. It may be worth it. I may have to do it again. So again, I'm still only at 30 watts. This is a 0.17 build, and I'm just pulsing it slowly. My poor wife. My poor wife's been sick for like a month. Pulse it slowly. Get it up to temperature. Just short blasts. And put my shadow over it so I can actually see. See, it's a little superheated there. A little bit of a hot spot. And with ceramic tweezers, you can kind of pulse it at the same time that you're firing it. But be careful. Be careful not to pulse it for too long, especially when you're squeezing it, because that's when you run into some trouble. You can actually reduce the resistance just by squeezing these coils at the same time you're firing them. Change the resistance. I don't know if it's reducing it or increasing it, but change the path of the current flow of wattage, of voltage, of all that stuff. So looking pretty good already. These mirrored coils really clean up nicely. Like, I'm getting all of the colors and stuff back. Not all of them, some of them anyways. Starting to go back like an iridescent blue color. And they're definitely still shiny. I like shiny. Just mess around with them a little bit. Make sure that they're both glowing evenly from the inside out. Another quench. All right, well, I think that gets the point across. This video might have been a little bit boring. I've got lots more to do, and I'm just gonna kind of plug away at it, and I don't want to bore you guys to death, but I think that's it. I might do another re-wicking video after all of this is cleaned up. I'm gonna take all these to the sink. Once I've got everything, all the coils cleaned up and stuff, I'm gonna take everything to the sink and scrub it up with a toothbrush. Rinse it really, really well so you're not looking like an idiot like I am. I'm vaping Dawn dish soap. Does taste good. I think that's it. Oh, one thing I didn't mention. especially after you re-wick or install your coils for the first time. Make sure they're glowing red, all that good stuff. They're warming from the inside out evenly, both at the same time, all that good stuff. But once you've gone 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days, however long you take it, it's a good idea, especially after like the first or second re-wick, to just snug up your screws. I'm pretty sure all of these RDAs have gone through at least one re-wick, and I've just checked my screws. That can be another problem if you're not getting a consistent vape, if your resistance is jumping up and down, if it just doesn't taste right. Take the cotton out, dry burn it like that. If you just can't get the hot spots out, if it's not warming up at the same time, a couple of problems. Screws aren't tight. One of the wires is broken. That's just, it happens. I've had it happen a few times where you can't tell what's going on, and you just can't get them to like warm up evenly. And the other thing is making sure that your coils are the same. We're looking for like the butterfly effect here. One coil should look fairly similar to the other coil. If they're not looking the same, then they're probably not creating the same amount of resistance. So they'll warm up at different rates. They'll produce vapor at different rates. They'll give you maybe sometimes a bad taste just because of the way that they're warming up and they're not consistent. So making sure that your legs and your leads and all that stuff are consistent from one coil to the other coil. Making sure your screws are good and tight. Making sure you don't pull too hard when you pull your cotton out and pull your coils all over the place. That's all stuff that's going to matter. So now I think I've covered it all. I hope I helped at least one person out there, and we're still looking for more content. I think this is some of the basic stuff for your like intermediate builders. I know that your entry level or beginner builders are never really going to, well, not never, but they're not going to be using them right now, these skills. But eventually, maybe these goofy, stupid videos of my fuck-ups and follies is going to help. Worst case scenario, drop me a message on Facebook or Instagram or even here on YouTube, and I'll try and answer your questions. If we have to, I'll do a Skype call and help you guys diagnose what the issues are. Just trying to help. That's what I'm here for. I'm going to do some more beginner videos. Simple stuff like stock coil tanks, how to prime them up. There's something to be said about really priming up your stock coils really well. If you prime them up well and you break them in slowly, they will last you longer. So I think that's where we're going next. That's it, that's all.